Okay, good evening, class. My MST class for the 1H, 1E, and REM students. So this evening, this day, I will be discussing to you about the components of the ecosystem. So our examination will be on this coming Sunday at your schedule. So if you are scared in 1 to 3, so you will take the examination 1 to 3. If you're going to or yung schedule mo is 3 to 5, so you have to join the 3 to 5 schedule. And no special exam in this case, so you have to really allot a time for this. And I provided a link for your permit. So this evening, to continue our discussion, so previous days we had discussed more about environmental science. Now, this time we're going to discuss about the continuation of these topics and that is the components of the ecosystem. So, mind you, so you have to view this recording since maybe 15 points from your examination will be taken from this part. Now, when you say components of ecosystem, let us go back to what is ecosystem. According to Arthur George Tansley, he described nature or ecosystem as as constant interchange. Ecosystem was first coined in 1935 by Sir Arthur once again, and we know that ecosystem is the interaction of living things or organisms to non-living organisms, and this is in a systematized manner. Okay, so I know alam nyo na yan. And I assume by now you are also preparing for your examination. And let us not get confused about environment. Environment is the place around us. The interaction between different environments is called ecosystem. Now, what are the components of ecosystem? Now, an ecosystem is composed of biotic and abiotic. When we say biotic, bio means life. Okay? Abio means no life. Lahat ng humihinga, lahat ng dumadami, lahat ng nagre-reproduce is considered to be biotic. Biotic means this consists of plants, animals, decomposers, bacteria, yeast, and fungi. Lahat po naman na may ability to reproduce at dumami is called biotic. Okay? Sir, fungi, yes, possibly because they are microorganisms. They are not bacteria. They are different from bacteria, but they have the capacity to reproduce. Now, abiotic naman means means not or no. No life. Kasi bio is life. No life. This considered to be consisting the ecosystem of abiotic one are the physical factors and chemical substances such as light, temperature, rainfall, humidity, topography, and all inanimate objects. When we say inanimate objects, lahat ng walang hininga, inanimate, bagay, likha ng tao, all of those things are inanimate. Ang upuan ay inanimate. Ang cellphone ay inanimate. Though it can communicate, but it doesn't mean that, tawag nun? Though it can communicate, used to communicate, but it doesn't mean na humihinga siya. So meaning abio, meaning the absence of life. Okay? So, excuse me. Ecosystem, ayan. So what are the components of ecosystem? The ecosystem is comprised of two major components, which are called the producers or the autotrophs and the consumer or the heterotrophs. So wala na kayong dapat pang discuss so much about autotrophs and heterotrophs. Tandaan nyo lang pag producer, PA, producers are A, autotrophs, or, yan. Consumers naman, kasi H, no, hungry, consumer, letter H, heterotrophs. Yun lang. Tandaan lang natin yun, class. Now, under your heterotrophs, naintindihan na ba yun? No? So hopefully you are catching up with the discussion. Again, there are two components of ecosystem. Mauuna po si producers. So when you say producers, sila yung nagpo-produce. Now, we know that plants are producers because they are able to manufacture their own food just by the aid of sunlight and carbon dioxide. Now they are the one producing the food of animals, the food of people, or the population or the persons No, tayo human beings, and they are called autotrophs. So they produce their own food. They are producers. Tandaan lang si PA, producers, autotrophs. Consumer naman, consume kasi H. H stands for hungry or heterotrophs. Now, your heterotrophs are subdivided into three. Tandaan lang ito, si herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. When we say herbivores, herbs, tandaan yan, plant. Di ba si herbs, plant? Ayan. So, ang kinakain ni herbivores as consumers, these are animals who eats plant alone. Herbivores, kumakain ng herbs, plant. Ayan. Plant eaters are herbivores. You can also hear about herbivorous animals. When say herbivorous, kumakain lamang sila ng plants such as dinosaurs. Some of the dinosaurs are plant eaters. May ganon. May mga ganong hayop. Yung plants lang talaga yung kinakain nila. Also, carnivores. When you say carne, meaning flesh, karne ba? Carnivores. Tandaan nyo yan. So, because out of this alone, I can give you 3 points out of this discussion. When you say carnivores, they are flesh eaters. When we say flesh eaters, kinakain nila yung laman. Laman ng tao, laman ng kapwa nila hayop. As long as kumakain ng karne, karne lang. So flesh eaters sila. So maybe we can say that lions are carnivores. Okay? And there are species of of bats that are carnivores by nature. Also, we will also discuss about omnivores. Yung omnivores naman, tandaan niyo lang pag omni meaning kumakain siya ng both herb or plant and carne. So meaning the combination of your herbivores and your carnivores is called omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. Tandaan lang yan, class. That's so easy to understand. All you have to do is to take note about this. Let's proceed with the next concept. Now, ecosystem is located in the biosphere. When say biosphere, we are aware that the Earth is divided into geosphere, lithosphere, but as we are going to tackle here in environmental science, ang pag-uusapan lang po natin ay ang biosphere. When say biosphere, bio means life. Sphere is circle, part of the Earth that supports life. Now, the living communities that are existing in the biosphere is called biomes, as you can see in the PowerPoint. So they are comprised with the regions of hydrosphere. Hydro means, ayan, so alam niyo na yan. No, hydro means it could be water. Geosphere, geo means land, geosphere, and atmosphere, himpapawid, where oxygen can be located, carbon dioxide that support life. So ito yung combination ng land, water, and atmosphere in order to support life. Dito makikita yung tawag nun, yung oceans, yung mountains, at the same time yung air. Ito yung biosphere. This is the part of the earth that supports life. Can you just imagine if sinituate ng Panginoon na manahan tayo sa core ng earth? Anong init kaya yung mararamdaman natin? So this is very true. So you have to take note of this. What comprises the regions of biosphere? Simple lang ang sagot. Hydrosphere, geosphere, and atmosphere. HGA. Hydrosphere, geosphere, and atmosphere. Now this is also the portion of the Earth's atmosphere wherein oceans and soil are located, and they are the part of the earth that supports life. Yun lang, tandaan lang si biosphere. By this alone, I can give you 2 points sa inyong examination. Next, the biosphere, hindi lang siya, hindi lang siya naka-enclose doon sa thought na puro lang buhay yung nandoon. Now, don't you know that in the biosphere, there is such called as abiotic components. Kanina, we've talked about the biotic components of your ecosystem, such as your producers, consumers, herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. So this time, we'll talk about the abiotic components. So say a means no life, bio means life. So no life component of ecosystem. Humihinga ba ang climate? Of course not. Geology, does it breathe? Of course not. They have no capacity to reproduce. They have no capacity um to have breath or mabuhay. Meaning, lahat ng hindi buhay ay abiotic component of the ecosystem. Yung batong tinatapakan mo, hindi naman yan nanganganak. So that's abiotic component. Now, let's discuss about climate. Climate is a long effect long effect of the Earth sun's radiation on Earth's surface and atmosphere. Tandaan niyo yung difference between climate and weather. When you say climate, ito yung kabuuang klima in a long term na manner. Pag short naman, parehas ng ano yung weather forecast natin for today. It's sunny. So, yung weather, it's just there for a short period of time. Sunny ngayon, bukas pwede rainy. Pero when we say climate, for the entire month of July to August, magiging rainy ang season. Climate, yun yung pinagkaiba. Long-term si climate, short-term si weather. Hopefully, na-gets niyo yan. But we'll just be talking about climate in the first place. Yun lang class, no? Tandaan nyo lang talaga yan. Yung climate, yun yung long-term na effect ng sun's radiation sa Earth. Okay, can you just imagine we are living in the Earth na walang sun. There will be only cold, no? Walang init, walang difference in the climate, meaning the long term. Okay? Pag short term naman yung illustration ko, subong nag-ulan, buwas hindi, because that's the weather forecast of the day. Okay? Next, climate is as a result, no, and under climate are so-called greenhouse gases. Now, what is greenhouse gases, or what are greenhouse gases? Now, when the levels of your carbon dioxide increase in the atmosphere, so as a result of industrial pollution, kaya nga yung isa sa mga pinaka-major problem natin ngayon is the accumulation of your greenhouse gases. Now, as industrial pollution happens or takes place in the atmosphere through excessive burning of fossil fuel and destruction of the world's forest for commercial interest, so there are long waves of radiation na nabubuo sa hangin natin. Kaya kung mako-compare ninyo, yung dating 6 a.m. 10 years ago ay hindi na katulad ng 6 a.m. ngayon. Dati 6 a.m. ginakurog-kurog pa kita. But right now, because greenhouse gases are present in our atmosphere, ang nangyayari po ay umiinit. Okay? Now, that results to high temperature in letter B. Now, when you say high temperature, global patterns in temperature and rainfall are affected by variations of solar radiation. Now, the Earth has a covering, and that protective covering from the harmful rays of the sunlight is called your ozone layer. Now, paano po, sir, na nagkakaroon ng, bakit mainit na yung Earth ngayon? Because the ozone layer is now destroyed. In fact, in the year 2000, yung laki daw ng hole ng ozone layer ng mundo is just like the continent of Australia. So can you just imagine, 12 years ago, ano nakalaki ngayon yung hole ng ating ozone layer? Because this is due to greenhouse gases. Kasi nagsasanga-sanga siya. So I hope naintindihan niyo in class. High temperature due to the depletion of the ozone layer. When say depletion, nasira na. Now also, under your climate is the cold. Now, in extreme areas of the world, some of the areas actually, because of climate change, dati hindi sila nagsusnow, but there are parts now, for example, in Thailand, that are very cold. And alam nyo, yung explanation dyan behind, why does yung mga countries near the equator are mainit kasi malapit sila sa sun. Kasi sphere siya, 'di ba? No, just like the ball. 'Di ba kung flashlightan mo ang ball, ang pinakasanag nang dira sa may pinakatunga. So that's the illustration of the position of the earth to the sun. Now, ang nangyayari ngayon because of greenhouse gases, depletion of your ozone layer, ang nangyayari ay hindi na siya nagiging even ang distribution ng climate no? Para it's like may mga blockage na doon sa sunlight. For example, amo ni ang earth ning basketball, no? Basketball ball. So flashlightan mo siya. Now because of the depletion of your ozone layer, nagakalat na siya. Now there are irregularities in your climate. That's why there are areas in the world that are so cold. Also, there is an increased rainfall and humidity. Alam nyo, ang rainfall mangyayari pag nag-evaporate yung tubig. Kasi walang rainfall kung walang sunlight. Rainfall, increased rainfall and humidity is caused by extreme temperature. Wala pong ulan kung walang init. Okay? Kasi yung ulan is because of the cycle of water. Mag-evaporate yung tubig kasi mainit. For example, in the ocean, masustore siya in the form of clouds, condensation, tapos yan mag-rainfall na siya. Humidity naman is the amount of water vapor in the air. When you say water vapor, kung nagasaka ka lang kung init-init ha, nagasaka, para sin nagasangkal ka sang imong tinigang or rice, if you're cooking rice. Di ba may makita ka nga nang daw nagaaso? Ayan, ang nag-aaso nga those are water vapors. Now, imagine in a bigger scope, nasa ocean ka for example, there is an increased humidity. Kasi nga mainit na ngayon. So that is what we mean to say by rainfall and humidity. Rainfall is present because there is an extreme heat of the sun. Now, there is an increased evaporation of water. Now, humidity is present because humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air or in the air. Yung water vapor na nasa hangin pa, ramdam mo yan. Pag humid ang isang lugar, maginot na, amo ng term, maginot, humid. Humidity, ang kaginuton. Amo na siya. And lastly, oxygen. Oxygen is the absence of oxygen may present a problem for higher animals and it is not concerned whether life in the complete absence of oxygen is possible for them, although there are some species, just like your bacteria. Alam nyo ba na may mga bacteria na kaya nilang tumubo in the absence of your oxygen? Okay. In fact, hindi sila tutubo kung may oxygen. Ganon, merong ganon. That's why, but most of organisms really require your oxygen in order for them to thrive. Tandaan niyo yan ha, pag tinanong ko kayo, does all organisms require oxygen in order to live? Yes, partly yes, no, partly no. So the correct answer there is partly yes. Okay, ganun lang. Now, under the climate is the oxygen kasi nga yung mga nangyayari sa ating klima, it also affect the oxygen level. Now, how, sir? Imagine, ang isang lugar, it's a farmland or forest, kinonvert siya forest. So meaning may magandang release of oxygen kasi may mga puno. Now, when there is absence of plants, trees, wala na pong production ng oxygen. So ang nangyayari is, because of this, mas lalong umiinit. Tama ba? No, mas mainit pag ara ka sa subdivision, ginot-ginot, ginaiya kay wala ginada puno. Now, because there is a lack of oxygen, kulang ang oxygen. At the same time, wala na po tayong panangga, wala na pong nag-a-absorb ng excess na carbon dioxide. No? Kasi yung carbon dioxide, yun yung ginagamit ng plants in order for them to make their own foods. Yun lang. Yun lang yung tatandaan. So tatandaan si GHCRO. So siya si greenhouse gases na nagre-result sa high temperature. Ang high temperature ay nagre-result sa cold or undistributed cold sa ibang part ng world. At nagre-result din si high temperature sa rainfall and humidity. Rainfall is yung nangyayari yun pag there is an increased water vapor, mas mainit, mas maraming rainfall, no? Kasi nag-evaporate yung tubig sa taas, nag-condense siya. At the same time, doon siya nasa-store sa clouds. Tapos, pag puno na siya, it will drain. And that is through raining or rainfall. Humidity naman, it's the amount of water vapor in the air. Kaya mainit at times, no? Kasi yung water vapor umi-increase. Mapaang, amo na gina-term nila, wala man hangin. Wala man sang init, pero nga aginot because of the humidity. Okay? That's why ang mga aircon, ang ilang work is actually ang exhaust niya ang nagahaboy sang init, pagawas, ginasuyop niya ang kainit sang room, tapos nagapasulod siya sang colder nga atmosphere or nga hangin. Okay, I think that is very clear, class. We'll proceed to the last part of our discussion for our midterm, that is your geology. Now, tandaan yung dalawang major component ng abiotic components. Kanina, I discussed about climate. Klaro na to. Climate is the long term. Yung short term is weather. Number 2 is geology. When we say geology, it is the study of planet Earth, rocky exterior, and its history and the processes that act upon it. Lahat ng pag-aaral about sa Earth, geo means Earth, so lahat ng pag-aaral sa bato, history, processes na nangyayari dyan sa Earth. Geo means Earth and land. So tandaan nyo that refers to geology. Now tatanungin ko sa inyo, which of the following refers to geology? Statement number 1, study of planet Earth, rocky exterior. Statement number 2, the history of Earth and the processes that act upon it. Choices are, statement 1 is true, statement 2 is false. Letter B, statement 1 is false, statement 2 is true. Letter C, both statements are true. Letter D, both statements are false. Meaning that the correct answer for that is both statements are true. Yan lang, mabilis lang. Madali lang intindihin. And under geology, may isang tatandaan lang tayo, the soil and the soil profile. Now, under the soil profile, when say soil profile, ito yung kabuuan ng bakit merong lupa. Ito gusto kong makita nyo ito na ang lupa, it's not just created as lupa na agad. Now, ang lupa ay na-create because of the process called weathering. Yung pagka-breakdown ng rocks. Ang lupa ay galing sa mga batong napudpud nga bato ba and minerals on the surface of the earth. Tandaan niyo yan, class So if I'm going to ask you about weathering, alam niyo na dapat yan. Okay? Now, soil is created through the process of weathering. Now, under your soil profile, meron tayong tatlong weathering na dapat tandaan nyo. Unang-una is your mechanical weathering. Again, balikan natin yung weathering. Weathering is of the rocks are there to produce the parent material of the soil and is usually achieved by a combination of 3 processes. And that these are the mechanical weathering. When you say mechanical weathering, this is the breakdown of the rock itself without chemical change. Mechanical nga siya kasi hindi gumagamit ng chemical. Meaning sa paggalaw, ginagamitan ng force. Okay? Mechanical weathering, yung pag pinukpok mo yung bato, tapos may napudpud ng mga lupa, that's mechanical. Now, number 2 is your chemical weathering. When you say chemical, it involves the usage of your chemicals or the presence of your chemicals. Just like where an actual chemical change of the rock material takes place and a new substance is formed. Pag ilalagay mo yung rock sa room mo, through time, makita mo may nagapudpud dira mas kinula mo ginatandog. Because in the air, there are present chemicals in the air, maybe or on the surface na pinatungan mo, that triggers chemical weathering. Kaya may mga napupudpud na lupa, okay, dyan sa paligid. And also, lastly, I think that is clear. Mechanical kasi ipupukpok mo siya or because of robbing, maybe because of earthquakes, may mga nabubuong soil or may mga nabubuong mga lupa. No? And chemical, kasi gagamitan mo siya ng chemical or hahayaan mo siya to undergo chemical change through time. So yung example natin ito is yung table. Pag nilagyan mo dyan ng bato, linisan mo ngayon, pagka next day may mga makikita ka na naman na mga lupa na seemingly hindi nauubos kasi nga it undergoes chemical changes. May mga present na chemicals in the atmosphere that triggers chemical weathering. Okay? Next, lastly, is your biological weathering, where the agents of change are living organisms which employ mechanical and chemical processes. When you say biological, it is the combination of your mechanical and chemical. Pag ang ginagamitan na siya ng mechanical tapos biological. There mga quarries just like that, no, they are mechanical, no, kasi nga kinukutkot. Pero if you want it to be more refined and you use chemical, So that's already biological weathering kasi may participation na nung tao, may participation na ng living organisms. That's why may bio na siya, biological. Now, where the agents of change are living organisms and they employ mechanical and chemical. Kung combination ng mechanical and chemical plus the presence of your biological agent, we call that weathering as biological weathering. Ano ulit yung importance ng weathering? Weathering ay if weathering happens, may nabubuong soil. Okay, may nabubuong lupa. Kaya may tataniman ka because of the rocks and minerals na na-dissolve in the earth. Okay? Just like kung may ara ka mo sang baboyan, no, excuse me for our Muslim brothers, kung ginastore mo ng iyang poop sa isa ka sako, through time it will undergo weathering and changes, no? Hindi ko naman sinasabing bato yung poops ng ano ha, but from a hard object, because of the presence of different factors in the atmosphere, later on nagde-decompose siya and you can use it actually as fertilizer later. Ang iba nga lupa na talaga yung dahil sa tagal ng time, no, na store siya doon. And next, lastly, bago ako mag-end, no, so I would like to discuss about soil formation. Now, soil is formed from the weathering of rocks. This is clear. I had concisely emphasized about this. It is made up mainly of mineral particles, organic materials, air, water, and living organisms, and all of which interact slowly yet constantly. Ang lupa, kung magkalot ka sang lupa sa dati yung basurahan, di ba lupa na siya, hindi mo na makita itong mga basura? Because that's the way of soil formation. Ang soil is already a combination of organic materials. So say organic, may presence ng carbon, air, water, and living organisms. May mga bacteria na dyan, may mga parasites na dyan, may mga worms. Lahat na halo-halo. Kaya nga, tayo nag-hand wash kasi if there's a contamination of soil on our hands, masin sa kuko mo lang na, it could possibly lead to some serious illnesses such as your Ascaris lumbricoides infection through parasites, no? Hindi nyo naman yan pag-aaralan. Pero ng bitok, it is only it could be due to contamination of your hands from soil. Doon lumalaki yung egg ng ascaris or ng bitok. Excuse me for those who are eating. All of this are interacting slowly yet constantly. Pahinay-hinay, pero 'di ba, nang tingala ka na lang tong basurahan nyo dati pagkutkot mo, wala na tong mga basura because although slowly, yet it is a constant na pangyayari. So I think that is all class for your midterms. Na bigyan ko ng justice yung inyong subject for this. I think nabigyan ko naman ng justice yung midterms ninyo. In fact, hinabol ko tong video because importante na hindi ko din pwedeng i-include to sa exam na hindi nyo napag-aaralan. So let's just have a brief review again of what we had discussed. Now we had discussed about the components of your ecosystem. Ecosystem, described as constant interchange by Sir Arthur George Stanley in 1935, a British ecologist. Now, components of your ecosystem as well. For your ecosystem, we have biotic or the plants, animals, decomposers, bacteria, yeast, and fungi. Bakit siya biotic? Kasi bio means life. Abiotic because a means absence or no. Bio, no life, such as your physical factors and chemical substance such as your light, temperature, rainfall, humidity, topography, and all inanimate objects. Yung mouse, abiotic to. Yung water bottle, abiotic. Ano pa? Yung watch, it's abiotic. Yung ballpen is abiotic. But this one, yung plant ko sa table, it's biotic because, di ba, dumadami siya, lumalaki siya. Now, next is, ecosystem was also described again by Sir Arthur George. Next, components of your ecosystem, we have producers or the autotrophs, PA, producers, autotrophs. Consumers or heterotrophs, C, kasi si consumer, di ba, H siya, na-H siya, hungry siya, so it's heterotrophs. Under your heterotrophs, we have different consumers, such as your herbivores. These animals or organisms are plant eaters. They don't, just such as your caterpillar. They are herbivores because they can only be fed through plants. Carnivores kasi karne, 'di ba? 'Di ba? Carnivorous, flesh eaters. Herbivores, okay? Kasi kumakain ng plants. Omnivores because they ate both plants and flesh or karne. Now, man, saan nakabilong yung man? Man is belong to omnivores. Kasi kumakain tayo both ng plants and um, karne. Omnivorous or omnivores. We have also discussed about your biosphere. It's the living communities. The smaller living communities is known as your biomes. Okay, biomes or biomes. Comprised of the regions of the earth, the hydrosphere or the water. Hydro means water, geo means earth or land, geosphere, and the atmosphere is hangin that supports life. Saan makikita yung hydrosphere, geosphere, and atmosphere? Of course, simple answer, biosphere. It is also a portion of the Earth's atmosphere where oceans and soil are located, and they are the one that supports life. Same time. Next, abiotic component. Kanina yung biotic na discuss na natin yon, yung producers, consumers. Now, for abiotic or abio means absence of life components. First is your climate. Humihinga ba ang climate? Hindi. Dumadami ba? Hindi. Geology, hindi din siya dumadami. Now, for your climate, it's the long effect of sun's radiation. Ano yung difference ng climate sa weather? Yung climate ay long term, yung weather ay short term. For example, ang climate for May to June is rainy or maulan. That's climate. But when we say about weather, ngayon lang, short period of time. Ngayon, umulan, bukas iinit. Kasi yun ay weather lang, weather forecast. Okay? Tandaan, also under your climate, we have 5. The greenhouse gases, your high temperature, cold, rainfall, and humidity, and oxygen. Again, na-explain ko na si greenhouse gases. Alam ko, alam nyo na yan. Greenhouse gases are formed because of increase in the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. And because of greenhouse gases, nagkakaroon ng high temperature. Kasi nga maraming carbon dioxide, mainit. Now, cold. Kasi hindi na nadidistribute ng mabuti yung sunlight. Kasi nga may mga butas na yung iba, wala na tayong ozone layer. I mean, malaki na yung hole ng ozone layer natin. At the same time, rainfall and humidity. Na-explain ko na sa inyo about rainfall, na ang rainfall happens because of the increased water vapor. No, pag mainit, mas dumadami yung water vapor in the air that results to humidity of the atmosphere na uulan and that results to your rainfall. Also affected din sa climate yung oxygen. Kasi for example, in your highly farmland na kinonvert into camellia, sorry for that, mentioning the specific subdivision. So dating malamig, dating rich ng supply ng oxygen, but because of urbanization and globalization, at the same time, development, nauubos yung oxygen. Mainit na ngayon doon. Parang hirap huminga kasi nga wala ng oxygen. Also, your geology. Geology, we talk about this as the study of planet. Lahat ng pag-aaral about sa planet Earth. Geo kasi means land or earth. Meaning lahat ng pag-aaral about sa Earth. Logy or ano pa nga, yung theology or ano na siya, logos, meaning pag-aaral. Lahat ng pag-aaral about sa Earth, rocky exteriors, its history, and the processes that act upon it is called geology. Okay, study of the Earth. Also called as Earth science and geoscience in other terms. Now, under your geology, we had discussed about soil profile, weathering. Bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng mga soil? Because of weathering. Kasi nga, ito yung breaking down of rocks and minerals on the surface of the earth. Soil profile, there will be a production of soil because of mechanical, chemical, and biological weathering. Once yung mechanical, may force, pwede due to earthquakes and pag-rub or pagbukbok, mechanical na siya. Pero pag ginagamitan sa chemicals, it's chemical weathering. Pero or ibilin mo ang rock dira sa may table mo, matingala ka nga may mga pudpud dira gihapon miskan termi mo ginaprapuhan because in the atmosphere or in the air, merong presence ng different chemicals. Kaya nga siya nagkakaroon ng chemical weathering. And biological naman, again, it's the combination of your mechanical and your chemical weathering. Now, soil formation is formed from the weathering of rocks. It is made up highly of mineral particle or organic materials, air, water, and living organisms, and all of which interact slowly yet constantly. Ang example ko sa inyo nito, paano na-form yung soil, um, it could be in a process of, for example, yung sa sa biotic o ng babuyan, 'di ba ginabutang nila sa sako ang poops through time because of the presence of different chemicals in the air. Same time ang mga organisms nga na dito, tong dating nga po, pagkuha mo sa sunod, lupa na lang na siya because it undergone soil formation, so-called process of soil formation. I think, class, that is all for tonight. I thank you for bearing with me. So that ends our discussion. Please study your lesson well. And if na-watch mo na tong video na to, I want you to comment um, I want you to comment what you have learned or mag-chat ka doon sa chat section natin ng one sentence nang na-learn mo so that ma-confirm ko na napanood mo siya hanggang sa last. That is all. And time check, it's 8:45 in the evening. Nandito pa ako sa school. So God bless you all for your exam. Goodbye!